Hi, and welcome back. So today, or rather this week, I have a video for you guys about functional strength. So I'm gonna go through a workout with you that I did that is full body and prioritizes functional movements. So I really like to prioritize functional movements in my workouts because the purpose of working out and staying active for me is to maintain my mobility and ability as I age and for my health span to be just as long as my lifespan. So for example, rather than doing like a bicep curl, I would prioritize movements like a push-up or a pull-up or lifting something over my head or just movements that actually happen in nature. Not that a bicep curl doesn't ever happen, but another way to work that out and something that's just as functional is to do carries. So you could hold something out in front of you and then walk with it. And that's gonna work out your bicep, but also is working out your traps and working out your shoulders a little bit so that you are able to use all those muscles in tandem. So let's go ahead and get into the workout. So as usual, I am just starting out with the bar every single time. I'll say this every time I post a workout video, every single time I do an exercise with the bar, I start with warming up with just the bar. When I work out, I like to do sets kind of like a pyramid. Some people will do like up the pyramid and then down the pyramid. So for example, 20 pounds to start, 30 pounds for your next set, 40 pounds for the next set, and say 50 pounds is your heaviest set. I usually do that. Maybe I'll do one drop set, so go back down to 40 pounds, but usually I just kind of ramp up to my heaviest weight and do a couple sets there, and then I move on to my next exercise. But that way, I just make sure that I'm prioritizing my form and really warming up my body for that specific movement before I move on to the heaviest weight. So yeah, getting right into that, and then I go ahead and add 25s onto the bar. This is usually where I start as far as like deadlift weight. And then after that, with each set, I'm adding on 10 pounds on either side. And today for my final set, I ended up doing 3 10-pound plates and 1 25-pound plate on either side. So a total of 155 pounds. And I did that for 3 sets at the end. A couple cues to really think about when deadlifting that really help me make sure I'm having proper form is one, and the biggest cue I have for you is to think of pushing your feet through the ground. So if you think of pulling up on the bar, a lot of times that can engage your lower back more than your hamstrings, glutes, and quads like you want the movement to be engaging. So I always think of pushing my feet through the floor, and that really helps my lower back just be there to stabilize but not be doing the pulling for the movement. I also recommend, if you haven't tried it, to try a split grip. So a lot of people when they are beginners, and I did this also when I was a beginner with deadlifting, I would put my hands like this, I guess like bicycle type grips on the bar. And while this challenges your grip strength a lot, which can also be a functional thing that you can work on, I find that it limits how much weight I can pull when deadlifting. So I like to do a split grip. And if you don't want to do that split grip, you can also always get straps if you're really wanting to go heavy with deadlifts. But with my training right now, I usually like to stop around at body weight for the weight that I'm pulling for deadlifts. Alrighty, moving into the next exercise, we're gonna do pull-ups. And I still cannot do a bodyweight pull-up, so I'm using bands in this video. But you can do bodyweight if you want to, or you can also just do negatives or any other variation of a pull-up. So as you can see, I usually kind of like to structure my full body workouts by doing a lower body movement, upper body movement, lower body movement, and then upper body movement. That way, the lower body has a little bit of active rest time, but while I'm doing my upper body movements, and the upper body has a little bit of active rest time while I'm doing my lower body movements. And I find this helps me maintain energy throughout my entire session. And I also like to prioritize the most difficult movements towards the beginning of my session when I have the most energy. So obviously that's why I did my deadlift. But anyway, back into this next exercise. So I'm starting by doing shrugs to warm up my shoulders. I'm not using the bands for these shrugs. I'm just going to be having my hands on the bar like I'm about to do a pull-up, but then only pulling up as far as like shrugs my scapula in. And I, first of all, can't go farther than that anyway, but I like to do that because it really primes the movement to be pulling from your back rather than using your biceps to do most of the effort. Your back has a lot more muscle than your bicep does, so you'll be able to pull a lot more weight. So there are 2 types of a movement whenever you're doing any sort of lifting. There's the concentric, where the muscle fibers are shortening. So think the pulling up when you're doing a bicep curl. And then there's the eccentric, where the muscle fibers are lengthening or putting the weight down. So that's when you would be putting it down. So with a pull-up, I really like to prioritize the eccentric to help strengthen my pull-up form because I'm still trying to get a bodyweight pull-up. So yeah, I'm just going through those movements here and doing a couple reps I can get out about 4 to 5 reps with this band resistance. Since I am really trying to build strength in this region to be able to do a bodyweight pull-up, I'm gonna keep my rep range lower because that will help me build strength rather than being focused on muscle building. Alrighty, moving into my next exercise, we are going to do Bulgarian split squats. Everybody's most hated exercise, but like hated in a good way. I am going to start with the Bulgarian split squats. Today I just have this foam box behind me that people used to do box jumps because I was in a room where I didn't have a bench to use to prop my back foot up. But essentially what you're going to do is you're going to have one foot in front. I usually like to actually start with my weaker leg. So usually people will have a leg that's weaker. I like to start with my left leg and do my reps on that one, just because say I started with my right side and I did 10 on that side, and then I go to my left side to go do 10 there, but I could only get out 8. I don't want to further any muscular imbalances, so I go ahead and always start with my weaker side. That way I can make sure everything's even. So I set up for my left leg in front, and that right leg is going to go onto the box with my ankle hinge being at the corner of that box. Now, one thing that I used to get wrong when I was doing this is putting way too much weight on that back foot. That back foot should be almost weightless. It's really only there to stabilize you. You want all that weight to be going into that front leg, so really lean forward over that. Doing this forward lean also really helps with prioritizing the glute in this exercise rather than the quad. To make this exercise a little bit more functional / to require more muscle groups, I do like to hold my weight in the hand opposite to the working leg. So that way my core is forced to stabilize and to keep me upright from the weight wanting to pull me over to one side. And it just makes this movement an overall more functional and full body movement. So I go ahead and did 10 reps on either side. And I think I have a 20-pound weight at this time. And then I went ahead, switched my weight and moved on to a 30-pound weight. And then I believe I did one last set with a 35-pound weight. And another thing to really remember with this exercise is to make sure that your knees are tracking over your feet and not bending inwards. Alrighty, next exercise, we're going to do overhead plate presses. So I actually prefer plate presses to your conventional overhead press that's going to be done with the bar, because I think it's a lot more of a functional movement. It's like holding something like you would hold like a box or something that you would actually lift over your head. We're not a lot of times going to be lifting bars over our head, you know, but lifting a box over your head when you're moving, or just when you're putting groceries away on a top shelf, like these are very common movements that you'll do in actual real life. So I really like to do that. And to make it also more functional, I like to start it from the ground, pull it up like I'm squeezing a pencil in between my shoulder blades, and then push it up. That way I'm challenging multiple planes of my back at the same time and really doing an overall more functional movement, because that's how it would happen in real life. Pick something up, put it on the top shelf. I do these with 45-pound weights, but if you're newer to this, I would start with a 25 or even a 10-pound plate, because these are definitely difficult and very demanding of your core. You'd be surprised. When you come up after pulling it from the ground and try to press, you really have to stabilize with your core, especially the heavier the weight goes. So make sure you're keeping your core tight during this exercise and not leaning on your lower back to be able to push it up. A little muscle check for you. I don't have very much definition because I don't have a very low body fat percentage, but it's still really cool whenever I have a little pump in the gym and can see my muscles. Alrighty, on to the final set, and then we're going to get into our last exercise. So sometimes on days when I feel like I have a lot of energy in the gym, because obviously a full body workout where I'm doing 2 lower body exercises and 2 upper body exercises and really going hard is going to be exhausting. But sometimes I feel like I have a lot of energy and I want to do like some sort of finisher that really can just like max me out. And today I decided to do that. So I have medicine ball throws combined with a squat. So what you're going to do is go ahead and throw the ball up, and then you're going to squat down and catch the ball. And then you're going to squat back up, all the while pushing that weight back up and throwing it at the wall again, and then repeat the motion. This is going to challenge both your lower body, your upper body, as well as coordination, which I think makes it a very functional exercise. You may throw the ball higher sometimes, you may throw the ball lower sometimes, and so you have to adjust throughout this movement to be able to make sure you're catching the ball every time. It also obviously, or maybe not obviously if you've never done it, is a very demanding cardiovascular exercise. Like, do 15, maybe 20 seconds of this, you'll be gassed. Like, I think I did 20-second rounds and did about 3 of them. So this is a great finisher. I highly recommend. It'll really get out all that extra energy and make sure you feel very worked out. So yeah, Thank you so much for watching today, guys. I hope this was helpful, and I hope that you understand now what functional strength is when it comes to full body workouts. I will see you guys next week, and comment down below what things you guys would like to see. Do you want to see more recipe videos? Do you want to see more workout videos? And what type specifically? Subscribe, and see you guys next time.